Today is the first time we've had a distinguished speaker from Korea come here to the Korea Society. So we're very pleased to have Dr. Kim Heisook, the new president of Ewha University. Briefly, I'll tell you a little about Dr. Kim. She graduated in 1976, studied English, and was a professor at the Department of Philosophy since 1987. She was inaugurated as the 16th president of Ewha Woman University on May 31st. She was appointed as the new president by the board of directors after having gained the largest number of votes of professors, staff, students, and alumni in a direct election held for the first time in the university's 131-year history. So welcome, Dr. Kim.
It works. 안녕하세요. 예. I am Heisook Kim, president of Ewha. President Mark Byrne just introduced me. First of all, I would like to take a moment to thank Korea Society for inviting me to this valuable meeting. And also, I'd like to thank Mr. Mark Gaston, who who first suggested me making a speech at Korea Society. He visited Ewha last summer, and we talked over various things, and he suggested me, why don't you have a speech at Korea Society? So I accepted his offer. Here I am. Today I'm going to talk about advancements in higher education for women, but it's my title. But what I want to talk is about changes we are facing in Korean university first, and their impact on women's universities, and a little bit about about Ewha Women's University, goals of Ewha Women's University. I have the changes we are facing. The nature of change is somewhat complex, I think. The changes I'm going to talk about is mainly brought about the phenomenon we have in contemporary world, and those changes are brought about by the rise of digital technology, and also by the development of postmodern capitalism. Some newspaper describes this kind of phenomena as follows: higher education is behaving more like $250 billion business. I think profound change in the realm of education is occurring under the impetus of the innovative development of digital technology and, as I said, capitalism where we are living in. Though philosophies of education have traditionally been humanist, had been influenced by humanist point of view, these changes are affecting our understandings and experiences of education. It appears that even education has become merely another commodity with market value. The next. The depth of transformation in the educational system and the quality of education changes provided remain unclear. However, one thing does appear certain: schools that do not prepare themselves for the radical changes we are facing could not survive in the increasingly competitive educational market. Influenced by market trends, adapting schools will try to reduce class sizes to better serve students' personal learning needs and will try to maintain a highly qualified body of faculty members to ensure quality standards. Many higher education institutions in the United States, whether they are large public universities or small private colleges, have made efforts to follow the models put forth by prestigious universities such as Harvard or Berkeley in San Francisco. However, as higher education institutions pursue a new system to fulfill the various needs and demands of students, the financial difficulty of sustaining high-quality teaching for their student body and conducting research at an affordable cost grows. Some experts are predicting that American higher education will evolve into a two-tiered entity, exceptionally high-quality education for those with the means to pay and lower-level mass education, most likely online for those without. So I here indicated internet resources. The online campuses, the result of the growing number of online campuses would lower the cost of education on the one hand, but it will cause a division within academia, one going toward the direction of cheap universities or where almost many people can approach the educational opportunities. And also there is another trend towards having very expensive university where you have personal contacts with faculty members, and also you can be privately cared for. The more recent concept of university as an institution which serves to meet the practical demands of students for jobs and skills is often at loggerheads with the traditional conceptualization of the university as an institution engaged in the pursuit of learning with a concern for pure knowledge. Quite a number of universities are investing great efforts to ensure that these two often conflicting concepts of the university retain their viability within their education systems. They try to define themselves as distinct from job training schools or technical learning centers on the one hand, while also being deeply concerned with the students' pursuit and attainment of both useful and marketable knowledge on the other. These seemingly conflicting demands are felt exceedingly pressing among Korean universities. How does this problem of defining the identity and the function of a university affect women's universities? On one model, should the women's university found itself? I would like to ask several questions concerning this issue. How can a women's university incorporate these dual concepts of the contemporary tertiary institution with the understandings of the role of a women's university? Can women's universities, in face of increasing female enrollments in co-ed universities, survive? How can they justify their existence and self-imposed vocation of enlightening women? Will the future still need women's universities? The prospects for women-only campuses in the prevailing capitalist cultural environment are not very good. The 190 Catholic women's colleges that the United States boasted in 1968 has diminished to only 20 already in 1990s. There are only 36 women's colleges and universities as of 2016 in the States. As a general trend, the number of women-only colleges has drastically fallen since the majority of universities relinquished their men-only entrance policies. To accommodate this change, many women's colleges were pioneering in developing continuing education courses, part-time programs, and weekend learning programs. Those women's colleges that survived turned to a new student population and established programs for older women while recruiting minority and foreign students. Though this turn to new constituencies may have reinvigorated campuses, it caused much distress among their alumni who felt stripped of their prestige. This struggle by women's colleges in America demonstrates the needs for women's colleges to develop programs specifically designed to satisfy the needs and demands of women of all ages based on the various life experiences of women. This is a lesson that must be recognized by Korean women's universities as well. In general, educational programs and courses in women's universities are not designed in accordance with the specific needs of women of different backgrounds, and thus differ little from those offered in co-ed counterparts. The education provided to women on women-only campuses must be an education for women designed to focus on women's needs for the sake of women's interests, not simply be an education for women with a curriculum generally made for men. Now a question may arise. What contribution can a sex-segregated university make to the society where it is situated? How can we harmonize the political and ideological orientations of a women's university with the pursuit of the universal ideas of learning? It is these questions that I am very much interested in. I think that women's universities must develop an alternative paradigm of Wissenschaft, a worldview, and intellectual undertaking, using the intellectual community and resources available while centering on both traditional and non-traditional values. We need to develop a double-sided or two-pronged strategy which makes use of two seemingly conflicting values, that is, the values of the past and the values of the future, by traversing them both. That is the only way a large women's university like Ewha can justify its own existence and secure a foundation as the platform for the community of intellectual women to express their aspirations for humanism in a newly defined setting. In this time of radical change, a large women's university must open up a new worldview and create a value that even survives in the market utilizing the digital technology. I would like to think about the challenges of women's universities in contemporary world. Korean society has a long tradition of sex segregation in all aspects of daily life, founded on the principle of separating women and men, which was one of the 5 basic moral principles in a traditional Confucian society. This gendered separation of space produced a social need for a separate education system for women. This need constituted the social cultural background of the establishment of large women's university like Ewha Women's University. The strong separatist cultural tradition and the tradition of allowing relatively autonomous, though subordinated women's space fostered a tolerance in Korean society for the large women's university that had grown to the point of becoming the largest women's university in the world until 2011, when the Saudi Arabian Princess Noura bint Abdurrahman University was established. It's a very big university which has more than 50,000 students, and the campus is very large, where several subway stations are running within the campuses. These socio-cultural factors explain the existence of the number of women's universities of substantial size in Korea, with enrollments of more than 30% of total female students, and the relative continued popularity. The fall in the number of large women's universities has been gradual, from 13 to 10, and now to 6. Compared to the decrease of the number in the States. It's very in the States, the decrease was very drastic, and it's only 2.5% of total female students attend women's university and women's college. Now, the single women's university enrollment since existed in Germany, where universities have allowed co-ed enrollment since 1908, until the recent foundation of the International Women's University in Europe. These statistics show the dynamic role of women's universities in Korea and make clear the need to reevaluate and positively redefine the role of these institutions as contributors to women's education in general and to the advancement of female intellectual community. These women's universities can make a platform where women as collective power can seek alternative knowledge base and contribute to building a more egalitarian world. In a fastly changing era, large women's universities should consider the following problems and challenges. The first is the extension of the women's education opportunities. We have to go over extending the opportunities for the women's education now, because it is we see the trend where about half of the incoming freshman students is constituted by women. And the second would be the challenge would be that we have to avoid avoid the possibility of being ghetto as just confining women within a certain separate space. We may we may make women weak in competing with male in the many areas, including jobs and also including in the academic environment. So that's the second challenge, I think. And also, the third challenge would be to prepare women for the age of science and technology. The science and technology has been considered as a very weak area for women. Women, it's been traditionally considered that women are very weak or women are not proper for that area. So, but the future age will be dominated by science and technology. So women must be prepared for that future world. To deal with these problems, we must introduce women's perspectives, alternative episteme, so-called. If women's universities are to survive with educational programs that are differentiated from those of co-ed universities, they cannot but take into consideration of women students' life experiences at the center of the learning process. Only when women's experiences are made the explicit guiding principles can women-only institutions find a reason for their own existence. According to research undertaken on one women-only campus, 5 themes are most valued in an educational program: recentering, that is, we're centering women's experience as center, and diversity, and also collaborative learning, a holistic approach, and finally connected knowledge. These 5 themes are very conspicuous in women-only campuses. Women's universities valuing women's perspectives commit themselves to making students aware of their gender identities and to fostering the consciousness of their own positions in the world and in the human history. Such efforts may in some cases result in a paradigm shift where the evolution of radically new viewpoints and practices takes place. Women's universities with research orientation must be able to produce new theories and practices hitherto unseen by recognizing their own unique positions in the intellectual world. This is very important in the sense that paving a new way through creative and innovative endeavors of the intellect is what a university is supposed to be for the human civilization. In that sense, women's universities that try to build a kind of groundbreaking researches or proposing new perspective is becomes very important and for the future world also. Without the effort to develop a new theoretical paradigm inclusive of women's experiences, women's universities will lose their own ground to stand as universities, as well as their justification as institutions exclusively for women. Women's universities must cherish and embrace intellectual freedom as far as possible. Researches and education in women's universities should be more than simple commodities to satisfy particular needs of outside customers, but be involving values and ideas for the future, invoking new demands. This humanistic and the futurist vision is what really makes women's universities distinct and unique. It is especially true in the case of super large universities like Ewha, because it has comprehensive programs to deal with those various problems and situations, and where they have human resources to build and to incorporate those various viewpoints to make a new perspective and new groundbreaking work. The search for a new paradigm cannot be carried out without considering the general conditions under which various social cultural changes take place. The changes we are experiencing nowadays may be characterized in various ways, but from the women's perspectives, women are still marginalized in the world of intellect and even far more behind in the world of science and technology. In Korea, less than 20% of faculty members in academia are female. In the emerging society of digital technology, women are on the verge of being permanent second citizens. This is especially so in the underdeveloped countries in South Asia, India, and Africa. The role of established large women's universities becomes significant in face of challenges, globalization, and the coming fourth industrial revolution would bring to us. We should make the future world more humane and just, valuing diversity and individual freedom. The world is still struggling toward the betterment of human life. I beseech you to let women's universities do the work needed for making a better world for all of us and building a human civilization with diverse human faces, women and men, black and white, the old and the young, the rich and the poor, the East and the West. Will a future society built upon advances in the sciences and technology, especially in the era of bioengineering, procure greater happiness or despair? This is the most difficult question to answer. Human power, both intellectual and physical, has both positive and negative aspects. However, one thing that we should make clear is that the spoils of science and technology are justly used and distributed. A white male Euro-American orientation of science and technology will deepen the cleavage between women and men, the South and the North, and between the haves and the have-nots. Women's universities must pay close attention to these aspects of our era and the future of science and technology. Their role must include both cultivating female professionals in the area of science and technology that have traditionally been considered male disciplines and developing the means to intervene the male-centric understandings of the fields. Balancing gender perspectives is even more critical in the field of fertility and reproductive technologies. Women's universities, as an intellectual community of collective knowledge and power, must be more committed to the issues concerning women in science and technology than ever. For women's universities to cope with the challenges of our age as delineated above, they will have proven to themselves reason to preserve their identities. The challenges seem to show that we need even ever more than before women's universities strong enough to make their unique contributions to creating a more humanistic and just world. In this context, the establishment of a women's university in Germany is most noteworthy. Professors such as Metz, Grekel, and Sauter Bailiet have argued for establishing a self-segregated academy in the European context. However, fears have existed even among feminists about the possible diversion of strong female candidates away from the existing system that is so greatly in need of their expertise. They contended that women's university would foster a self-confident, critical female intelligence, open academic avenues and job opportunities for highly qualified women, help them confidently to assume power and influence, provide a structure which would allow women to take on social, political, and intellectual responsibilities, and provide a forum for debating the pressing questions of our world. They took a women's university to be an alternative academic institution of feminist scholarship and to be one of the answers to the demand for reforming a stagnant university system. Social cultural change in our age does not evolve naturally. Rather, such changes are realized by those with vision and determination. Women must emerge from the dark margins where they have so long stood still as spectators. Women must participate and lead further the changes with their own hidden voices. Women's universities have a responsibility to build a passage for them and thereby find a good answer to the question of why there should be women-only institutions. Will the 21st century to be free of sexual discrimination? The prospect is uncertain. Most probably in many parts of the world, violence against women, whether physical or institutional, will be something yet to be overcome. Even though we may have achieved greater former gender equality and justice, it remains our responsibility to define what we understand equality to be and the means by which we will achieve it for ourselves. Women's universities will be a platform for fulfilling this self-imposed responsibility. If in the remote future equality and justice are achieved, the new systems and directions I am advocating for women's universities will enable women's universities to still find justification for their existence as institutions which serve the diverse needs of women of all ages and cultures. Thank you.